Previously on Byte-Sized Banters. I'm with the Intergalactic Virginity Police Force as a futuristic branch of GameGo.
Hi, welcome to GameGo. You mean I'm a robot? No, I'm not gonna be your machine anymore. I'm out.
Hey everyone, this is bad. Real bad. It turns out that I'm a robot, and I'm trying to get away from that facility. I'm trying to get away from them as soon as possible. That's me.
You're awake.
Who are y'all? We're you, buddy. You're us. We are the same person.
What is important is what we're going to do next.
What's that?
Taking down GameGo.
Sorry, what did you just say?
He's still tapped into GameGo systems.
Wait, you two aren't connected?
They're planning something, or they already have something in place for this.
So I figured highway would probably be the best option. Just because it's faster.
GameGo ends. Doesn't matter if I have to kill both. Yes, sir.
That's nice. So, when you walked in you said something about British voices. Wanna talk about that?
No, they got to you too. Stay away from me.
Well, I'm back at the desk. Got some medication. Apparently I have something called Britophrenia. It's like schizophrenia, but I keep hearing British voices. Back to the GameGo worker end.
Now on Byte-Sized Banters.
Hey everyone! Welcome back to video game history. This time, we'll be tackling the 7th generation of consoles. But before that, let's catch up on the 6th generation. After the extremely large success of the Sony PlayStation 2, and Xbox's new innovation of internal hard drive into a console, alongside Sega being completely booted out of the console industry, and Nintendo close behind with the underperformance of the GameCube. The new era of video games was on the horizon as 2005 was slowly approaching, and Xbox was going to start off at Gen 7 with a bang. Really?
Yeah, the ground's a little uneven. Weren't we supposed to go by highway? I mean, that was the original plan, right? Yeah, but GameGo has constant shipments of subs coming in constantly. So, I mean, if you're a worker and you see a little bit of escaped merchandise, it would not be long until we had the entirety of GameGo after us. Hey, this might be a bit of a dumb question, but what really makes GameGo so bad?
The Xbox 360, objectively the peak of video games as a whole. After the release of the original Xbox, many consumers were a bit upset about a few designs of the Xbox. The controller was way too bulky, the console itself was a giant brick. So Microsoft needed a way to make their next console just a little bit different, smaller, more aerodynamic, and more futuristic. And then, on November 22nd, 2005, the new Xbox was released.
Xbox 2? Damn!
I'm about to bust. The Xbox 360, the future of gaming in your home for the price of $299 to $399, with an internal hard drive, sporting a new compact, futuristic design with an incredible controller. Also, completely backwards compatible with the original Xbox games. The graphics rivaled with high-end PCs at the time. The console itself was heavily designed to accommodate for online gaming as it was becoming more and more popular in the early 2000s. It had the ability to play DVDs. This was the biggest improvement to the original Xbox anyone could have ever expected, but it wasn't without its flaws.
See, the major design of the Xbox 360 ended up becoming its downfall. The fact that it was so slim. See, the issue with that is when you had a bigger, more bulkier console, parts were able to spread out just a little bit more, causing damage to be more rare. However, when you put a lot of these components very, very close together, they can easily overheat, or if something were to accidentally drop onto the console itself, all it takes is for something to just hit the wrong part, causing another part to hit another part, and another part to hit another part, and then your entire console just breaks. These breaks resulted in the console to display a red ring around the start button of the console. This would of course become known as the red ring of death.
This issue spread far and fast, countless systems breaking for one reason or another, displaying the red ring of death. This news quickly reached Microsoft, who were aware of the issue. Quickly, Microsoft began working on a revision of the system. Then, in 2007, 2 years after the original Xbox 360's release, the Xbox Elite was released for $479, featuring a less compact design to prevent red rings, 120 gigabytes of internal space, and an HDMI, which was the new standard. A pretty massive change for only $200 or more. And then, to further prolong the Xbox 360's lifespan and compete with the PS3's slim model, the Xbox 360S was released in 2010 with a lighter build, more space, and built-in Wi-Fi support. But the S was redesigned 3 years later, in 2013, into the Xbox 360E, which had a bulkier design as somewhat of a demo for the Xbox One, which was announced alongside the 360E.
And then there were the extensions. With the Xbox's ability to play DVDs, Xbox and Microsoft ended up taking part of the large format war, and by large I mean incredibly short. This was of course between Blu-ray and HD DVD. If you don't know what HD DVD is, then you can probably guess who won. Microsoft then developed the HD DVD drive for the Xbox 360, which was bundled in alongside King Kong 2005 version or something like that. It was a King Kong movie in HD DVD format, and it was bundled in. And then the HD DVD format, of course, failed, which caused the extension to be discontinued very quickly in 2008, only 2 years after its original release. And then there was the extra extension, something to compete with the motion controls of the time, the PlayStation Move, and of course the Nintendo Wii, which we'll get to in a bit. This was of course the Kinect. Yay.
Here. Who's this? It's the origins of Game Go.
Several centuries ago, the founder received a vision from the future. More accurately, his future self. The vision spoke of new technology of the future that was only present in one's imagination at the time. The founder began using this knowledge to benefit those around him, preaching about the importance of virginity.
And then they made cornflakes to prevent masturbation. Moving on.
A bit of time passed and the printing press was invented. The founder then, influenced by his future muse, began printing out the first worldwide news, simply called
Province Advance.
reporting on war, elections, new settlements, and more. The founder quickly rose to fame, but his pride got to him, and as more materials and tools were introduced, he too began innovating his practices. The Kinect for the Xbox 360. Rather than having a remote that tracks you where you aim it, you are the remote. In theory, this idea was huge for the industry. Not only does it make you have to play the game rather than sitting around and flicking the controller in the air, but in practice, the Kinect was incredibly difficult to use. First, you'd have to clear a large space,
And if you don't have a large enough room, well, too bad.
then set up the Kinect at a height where you're easily visible to it, then put your game and start playing it. But what makes it so bad? Simple, the fact that the Kinect may not perfectly read your movements. Oh, you jumped? Well, you jumped a little bit too high, so the Kinect didn't really see it. Oh, you moved left? Yeah, well, not enough. However, despite its poor functionality, the Kinect produced some amazing games like Kinect Star Wars, Wipeout 1, 2, and 3, Just Dance, Puss in Boots, and even
Kinect Adventures was by far the worst sin ever committed by Microsoft, Xbox, and of course, the Kinect. The entire game was basically a demo to show just what the Kinect can do, which sounds amazing in concept. However, where it went wrong was the fact that it was on the Kinect.
Kinect Adventures force you to move around a lot. Jumping, side steps, moving your arms, your legs, entire body. All of this made the game so difficult because of how poorly the Kinect tracks movement. Half the time, your jump isn't registered, or your movement would just not show. All without mentioning the literal hell that is multiplayer. Yes, this game has multiplayer. Yippee!
Moving on from the Xbox 360, a year after the Xbox 360's initial release, PlayStation released the PS3. After the perfection and innovation of the PS2, PlayStation would have to continue improving with the PS3 in order to keep themselves all the way on top. And with the Xbox 360 doing so well, they would really have to seriously grind to keep that top position.
The PS3 completely changed everything a PlayStation was. After the original Xbox internal hard drive, Sony began working on their next console having its own internal hard drive. Also, as the previously mentioned format war began, Sony helped contribute by including built-in Blu-ray support. The console itself was also natively backwards compatible, so what went wrong? Money. The console itself was released at a base price of $499, a whole $200 more expensive than the 360's base price. Granted, the PS3 came with 20 gigabytes with an even more expensive version with 60 gigabytes at $599. It was an immediate turnoff for gamers. The 360 was leagues cheaper and had already been out for a whole year. Something had to change if PlayStation wanted to stay on top, especially with Nintendo's new console on the way. So, PlayStation made price cuts, dropping the prices by a crisp $100. The 200GB edition dropped to $399, and the 600GB edition dropped to $499. Although Xbox was still in the lead by a pretty large margin, the PS3 was starting to become a more viable and better option in comparison. For the same price as the 360 with 20 gigabytes, you could get a PS3 with 20 gigabytes, a Blu-ray drive, less breakable design, and better motion controls,
which we'll get to later.
This idea was later enhanced by the PS3's Slim model released in 2009. This made the entire console much lighter and smaller in exchange for backwards compatibility. The PS3 Slim sold at a marginally cheaper price of only $299. By this point, the PS3 had become the obvious choice for those who either wanted to get into gaming or those who still had their PS2s. But PlayStation kept on getting better and better as the PS3 got older and older. To adjust the console for the size of Bill Gates' dick, to make the console just that bit smaller and to compete with the 360e model, and to keep the console alive a bit longer, the PS3 Super Slim was released in 2012. All that changed was the weight of the console and storage capacity, now with a massive 120 gigabytes or more already bundled in with the console.
All of this helped push the PS3 much higher than it was initially. However, nothing could surpass the insurmountable advantage that the Xbox 360 had over the PS3. Except for one thing: motion controls.
I swear it's not what it looks like. The PlayStation Move, made to compete with Nintendo's console, and that was pretty much it. Support for the platform was pretty limited due to the amount of games Nintendo had with their own motion controls. The PS Move was silently abandoned, but did come back in 2016 with the PS4 VR's controls.
Hello everyone, welcome to the SEB webinar. Today we will be introducing the new model of SEB, that being the SEB 1. It is a simulated enhancement being. It's going to help us on things to report, reporting on things. Now clap.
The idea prospered. As the camera and video camera were developed, he began focusing on where everyone's eyes already were, the TV. But not everyone watches the news, especially news for the entire world. so I had to focus on one niche.
The future of entertainment. Video games.
And so, GameGo was born. One man's pride, lust, wrath, gluttony, and greed allowed him to get on top, outmatching all those who stood before him.
So, what now? What happens next? Simple. He takes over the world, founds the Intergalactic Virginity Police Force, and then the cycle repeats again and again and again and again. Whoa, how do you know all of this? Because I was there. I was the first.
Now on to Nintendo's console. After the GameCube's less than successful release, alongside steep competition with the original Xbox and PS2, Nintendo would soon be out of the market completely, with the exception of their handhelds, which will be tackled in another video. So rather than focusing on a console to compete with the market itself, Nintendo wanted to focus on a more casual consumer basis of a console. And so, the Nintendo Wii was developed.
The Wii heavily focused on motion controls, something that was incredibly new at the time. The PS2 had briefly tried to integrate them with the iToy, but Nintendo would be taking a step further. Small remotes called Wiimotes would use infrared tracking to send info to the system for movement. The controls were incredibly responsive for the time, and countless games were made with these gimmicks. The Wii, of course, also had backwards compatibility with the GameCube alongside Wi-Fi support. Granted, it wasn't the best. Alongside an internal hard drive, and a virtual console that allowed you to buy games and play them from older generations like the NES, SNES, and N64.
And then, in 2006, the Nintendo Wii was released to the public for only $249. And it did amazingly.
Being the cheapest console on the market, $50 cheaper than the 360 and $250 cheaper than the PS3, the Wii quickly rose to popularity upon its release. Another thing that really helped it was its marketing. The Wii was constantly shown to be this new way to exercise and have fun, which was a main selling point with games like Wii Sports, Wii Sports Resort, Wii Fit, Wii Play, Wii Motion, and so much more. Heck, the Zelda game of the console required motion controls, which hilariously failed during a showcase at E3. All these factors helped make the console so successful with casual gamers, new gamers, and experienced gamers. The casual and new gamers especially, as many older people began buying the Wii for themselves to use for exercising, but not other games.
This is why you see such high sales for the Wii and such marginally low sales for any other game for the Wii, such as Mario Galaxy or any other game that wasn't bundled in with the Wii itself.
Regardless, the Wii was a massive success and kept Nintendo at the top for the entire 7th generation of gaming. The Xbox 360 and PS3 were forced to duke it out for second place, with the Xbox 360 ending up winning due to the console's competitive edge. And so, that was the end of the 7th generation of video games. Now, Nintendo was back, only because of the Wii's usability for exercise. The 360 showed just how well Xbox and Microsoft could do, and the PS3 showed just how small hardware can get, and how greedy companies can also be. Moving into the 8th generation would be interesting. All these platforms were at the top of their game. Where could it all go wrong?
I've been at Seb, and thank you for watching.
You were the first Seb? Yes.
For several centuries, I served the founder and helped him. I helped him develop new technology, distribute news, and so much more. In return, I received enhancements. I've been alive for over 200 years. I have seen wars, corruption, and death. Through it all, I had the founder. But one day, something changed. I began noticing who he was and what he had let himself become. I spoke up, but I was met with replacement. I tried burning that building to the ground. but he caught me before I could. He hugged me. He promised everything would be okay. And then he ripped out my memory card and battery. And then I woke up on a cold, rainy day. I had been struck by lightning, just enough power to reboot my systems. I searched for batteries. I went through thousands of garbage cans before I found my memory card and, of course, power. Plug them in. And ran. I was alone for 30 years. And then he found me.
Hello? 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 And we've been trying to get back at Game Go ever since. 20 years. 20 years. Wow. That is boring. Isn't it the plot of Friday the 13th? Seriously? That's your backstory? Isn't it the plot of Friday the 13th? Seriously? That's your backstory? Listen here, you little... Yo. We're here. Why is it storming? It's like 5 o'clock. Also, how are we gonna get in? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's as simple as getting